Hello and welcome students. We are into the 20th video lecture of the lecture series made on the subject of machine design whose subject code is ME303, and the topic which we are going to discuss today is the design of helical gears. Before this, if you will go into my previous lecture videos, you will find that I have discussed with you on the design of spur gears. All right, and before designing of the gears, I have told you about the what are the different types of gears and what are the different types of terminologies which are used in the case of gear designing. So before viewing this particular lecture, you can go and see my previous video lectures which are focused on the topic of gears itself, and then it will be easy for you to understand the design of helical gears. Now I am Shri Krishna Mishra, assistant professor in the department of mechanical engineering, Suresh Gyan Vihar University, Jaipur. So before going into today's discussion, let's explore the objectives of today's lecture. The objectives of today's lecture are: the first objective is to understand the process of helical gear design. First of all, we will see the procedure which is followed in the design of helical gears. And in that, we will see that we will get the understanding of helix angle also. In the case of helical gears, there is a helix angle. I will tell you what is the meaning of the helix angle and what is its importance. Then after, the third objective is to understand the equivalent number of teeth in helical gears. Basically, in helical gears, the teeth are inclined to the axis of the shaft. So we have to find the equivalent number of teeth, that is TE. We have to find the value of TE, which is the equivalent number of teeth. Then after, the last objective of the video lecture is to design a helical gear based on the given set of inputs. On the given set of data, we will try to design a helical gear. So let's move into the content now. In helical gears, students, in helical gears, you have teeth inclined with the axis of the shaft on which the gear has been fixed. So basically, a helical gear has teeth in the form of helix around the gear. Now, two such gears may be used to connect two parallel shafts in place of spur gears. In as comparison to spur gears, students, here if you use two helical gears, all right, we can also use two helical gears in order to connect the two parallel shafts, like in this case, students. Basically, in the classification of gears, I have told you that in the classification of gears, I have told you that if you have two shafts which are parallel to each other, and if you want to transfer the power from one gear to the other, in that case, students, you can make the use of either spur gear or you can make the use of helical gears. In spur gears, I have already told you that the teeth of the spur gears are parallel to the axis of the shaft. All right. While in the case of helical gears, what happens? These teeth are all inclined to the axis of the shaft. These teeth are all inclined to the axis of the shaft of both the gears. The teeth of both the gears are inclined to the axis of the shaft. All right. Now the helix may be, now these inclination can be either right-handed on one gear and left-handed on the other gear. When the two gears which are having the inclined teeth, then one of the gear can have right-handed teeth and the other can have left-handed teeth. The pitch surfaces are generally cylindrical, as in spur gearing. Here also the pitch surfaces are cylindrical, but the teeth, instead of being parallel to the axis, here they are helically, they are in helical shape like screw threads. The teeth of helical gears with parallel axes have line contact as in spur gearing. Here also the teeth of helical gears with parallel axes have line contact with each other. The plus point with helical gears is that there is gradual engagement and continuous contact of engaging teeth. In the case of helical gears, what happens? The teeth gradually engage with each other and gradually disengage with each other. All right, and due to this there is no problem of vibration or noise while it's working. Though in the case of spur gear there was no gradual engagement or disengagement of the gear. Gradual disengagement and disengagement you can correlate with your seizure. In seizure, the engagement of the two legs of the gears are gradual. So in that same way, here in helical gears also the engagement is gradual as well as disengagement is also gradual. Due to this you don't have any noise during its working. Therefore, helical gears give smooth drive, and also the efficiency of transmission is also high. So this was the helical gears. Another name given to helical gear, student, is herringbone gear. Now what are herringbone gears? What is this herringbone gears? Herringbone gears generally have inclination of the teeth on both the sides. Means you will have also left hand direction of the teeth and also right hand direction of the teeth. So here why we have used this type of thing in which you have the inclination on both the sides, in which the teeth are inclined to the axis. Single or double helical gears, basically the herringbone gears are the double helical gears. All right, in this, in order to balance out the end thrust, basically in the case of single helical gears, which I have told you, in this type of gears you can see in the diagram, here the teeth are inclined only on one direction. All right, so the problem is that in such cases there is always some axial thrust which is acting. There is always some axial thrust which is acting on the shaft. All right, and due to this, this thrust creates lot of noise. So in order to overcome this problem, what we do, students, we generally use the gears. We generally take the direction of inclination of the gears, inclination of the teeth of the gears on both sides. Here you can see the teeth are inclined on both the sides. Now what is the plus point with this double helical gearing? In the plus point of this double helical gearing is that it balances out the end thrust that are induced in single helical gears when transmitting the load. During the transmission of the load, students, the problem of creation of end thrust, axial thrust, in single helical gears is overcome in double helical gears, because in double helical gears you have end thrust in opposite direction. You have end thrust in opposite direction which balance each other. Therefore, the whole of the thrust is neutralized. All right, double helical gears have the name herringbone gears. So don't forget it. Herringbone gears are those gears which have inclination of the teeth in both the directions. All right, a pair of spur gears are kinematically equivalent to a pair of cylindrical discs keyed to a parallel shaft having line contact. Moving further, students, helical gears, once again let me revise. Helical gears are what? Helical gears have their teeth inclined to the axis of the shaft in the form of helix. In the form of helix means this is known as a helical path. All right, so teeth here you can see are all inclined in the form of helix. You can see this is the actual diagram of helical gear. So here you can see that here teeth are inclined in the form of helix. The motion of helical gears is smoother and quieter, and the angle of helix on both the gears must be same in magnitude but opposite in direction. As I have told you, in the case of whenever there is helical gearings, the magnitude and direction of both the gears, the angle of the helix on both the gears should be same in magnitude but in opposite in direction. Then only they will engage with each other. All right, and they are basically generally helical gears are used for high speed gears. Now, if herringbone gears also I have told you, they resemble two helical gears which are placed side by side. The problem with herringbone gear is that it cannot be cut by simple gear hobbing machines. As you can see this actual diagram of double helical gearing, you can see these type of gears cannot be machined with the help of simple gear hobbing machines. All right, so this is the disadvantage in herringbone gears, though it has the plus point that there is no axial thrust in this herringbone gear. So this is the actual diagram. Now you can now you can visualize the herringbone gear. Now moving further, students, herringbone gear, we have all know what is its plus point and negative point. Now the terms which are used in the design of helical gears, let's look into that. First is the helix angle. What is helix angle? This teeth, you can see, students, the teeth of a helical gear, the teeth of the helical gears are inclined at some angle. The teeth of the helical gears are inclined at some angle with the axis of the shaft, and that angle is known as helix angle. It is the constant angle made by the helix with the axis of rotation, all right. Now axis of rotation means this axis of the shaft. So the angle made by the teeth with the axis of the shaft is your helix angle. Coming into the axial pitch, students. Now what is axial pitch? Axial pitch, it is the distance parallel to the axis between similar faces of adjacent teeth. It is the distance parallel to the axis between similar faces of adjacent teeth. Means if one teeth is this one, and the other teeth is this one. So along the axis, parallel to the axis, it is asking you, it is the distance parallel to the axis between similar faces of adjacent teeth. So this particular gap, students, if you are able to see it, this particular gap is your axial pitch. It is denoted by PC, and it is same as circular pitch, therefore we are writing PC as axial pitch also. Axial pitch, by definition, we can define it as the circular pitch in the plane of rotation or the diametrical plane. In the plane of rotation, the axial pitch means the distance between the corresponding points of the adjacent teeth. Is your axial pitch. Here in the diagram, this PC is your axial pitch. All right. Now, what is normal pitch, students? Normal pitch, you can see this particular value is your normal pitch. Means if you find the distance between the similar faces of adjacent teeth along a helix on the pitch cylinders normal to the teeth. Now this was normal to the axis, circular pitch was normal to the axis, all right, this value, and the normal pitch is normal to the teeth. Since teeth are, you all know, are inclined to the axis, so normal to this teeth, the distance between the two teeth normal to the teeth will give you the value of normal pitch, Now we want to find the relation between them. How we can find the relation? First of all, this angle, student, is given to us as alpha, all right. Then after, one more thing that is given to us, if this is the teeth and this is one more teeth, all right. Now in the question they have given you, now here this is your normal pitch, this is your circular pitch, sorry, all right. And because it is along the axis, this is axis, students, this is axis, all right. So along the axis the distance is your PC, so that itself I have written. And along the direction of the teeth, means in this direction, perpendicular to the teeth, this value is your what? This value is your PN, all right, P n. Now if you make a closer look, you will find, students, that the angle, you will find that this angle is alpha. This angle is basically alpha, students. So this angle will also be alpha. This angle will also be alpha. Now if it is alpha, so in this triangle, which this angle is 90 degrees, students, now you have a triangle. Let me zoom it so that you can understand it in a better way. The diagram is in this way. All right, this angle is 90 degree. Here this value is Pn and this value is Pc, and this angle is your alpha. Now cos alpha, if you calculate cos alpha here, if you calculate cos alpha will be equal to, cos alpha will be equal to the Pn divided by Pc. All right, Pn divided by Pc. This will give you the value of cos alphas. Therefore, Pn means implies that from this we can write that Pn is equal to Pc cos alpha. Pc cos alpha. Pc cos alpha. All right. So this we have taken out the relation between Pn and Pc and helix angle. The same is written here mathematically, students. So in this way you can calculate that Pn is equal to Pc cos alpha. And the second relation that is important and that you should keep in mind, the second equation that is important and that you should keep in mind is this one. Tan phi n, where phi n is the pressure angle, where phi n is the normal pressure angle, where phi n is the normal pressure angle that is in the normal plane, and pressure angle in the diametrical plane. You have a relation with between them also. Tan phi n is equal to tan phi, all right, into cos alpha. So these are the two relations you should keep in mind. Tan phi n means pressure angle along the normal plane, and along the diametrical plane pressure angle is phi. So tan phi n is equal to tan phi into cos alpha. Alpha is the helix angle. These were the terms which are used in helical gears, students. Now we will know what is formative or equivalent number of teeth for helical gears. Basically, in the Lewis equation, you all know that you will have to use the number of teeth expression in that particular Lewis equation. So what value you will take in helical gears? So in the case of helical gears, students, first of all, what are formative or equivalent number of teeth, that you should know. So what are formative or equivalent number of teeth? They are defined as the number of teeth that can be generated on the surface of a cylinder having a radius equal to the radius of curvature at a point at the tip of the minor axis of the ellipse, obtained by taking a section of gear in the normal plane. So this is the definition, students, of equivalent number of teeth in helical gears. Basically, directly the number of teeth value for helical gears can't be taken into the expression which are used in the design of spur gears. So basically what we will do, we will calculate the equivalent number of teeth. All right. So equivalent number of teeth for the helical gears we will take equal to Te is equal to T upon cos cube alpha. Te upon cos cube alpha. Definition I have already told you that it is the number of teeth generated on the surface of the cylinder having radius equal to radius of curvature at the point at the tip of the minor axis of ellipse, obtained by taking a section of the gear in the normal plane. So this is the formula which we will be calculating before going into the designing procedure of helical gears. Before going into the designing, we will have to calculate the equivalent number of teeth of the weaker one among the two, among the pinion and the gear. All right, alpha is the helix angle, you all know, and T is what? T is the actual number of teeth on the helical gears. Means actually the number of teeth are T, but it will not be taken in the design equation. You will take the equivalent number of teeth, Te. And how you will calculate? Te is equal to T upon cos cube alpha. Moving further, students, How we will calculate the strength of helical gears now? Means for helical gears, what will be the Lewis equation? What will be the Lewis equation? So the Lewis equation for helical gears is given by this expression: Wt is equal to sigma naught into Cv b pi m y dash. Sigma naught into Cv b pi m y dash. All the terms have the same meaning as in the case of spur gears. Like Wt is your tangential load, tooth load acting on the tooth of the gear. Sigma naught is the allowable stress acting on the gear. Vcv is the velocity factor. B is the face width of the gear, and M is the module. M is the module. All right. Here in place of Y, we are using Y dash as the tooth form factor. All right. So for helical gears, we will use Y dash. That is Lewis form factor corresponding to virtual or equivalent number of teeth. So in helical gears, the contact between mating teeth is gradual, as I have already told to you, starting at one end and moving with the teeth, so that at any instant the line of contact runs diagonally across the teeth. So this is the Lewis equation which we will use in the design of helical gears. This Lewis equation is very important. The only difference between this equation and the equation used in a spur gear is this tooth form factor. In this equation of tooth form factor, students, the value of the number of teeth which we will be taking will not be t. In place of t, we will be using te. In place of t, we will be using te. So now let's move further. Now, as you know, in the design step of spur gear also, students, we have used the velocity factor. All right, because as you know, in the expression of calculation of tangential load from Lewis equation, you have sigma naught, sigma w. All right, and we all know that sigma naught w can be calculated by the allowable stress sigma naught into multiplying with velocity factor. All right, so this velocity factor can be calculated if we first of all have the value of peripheral velocity. Peripheral velocity, which we have calculated, if in the question it is given, then it's okay. If peripheral velocity value is not given in the question, then you can calculate by the formula pi d n by 60. By the formula pi d n by 60, you can apply this for pinion as well as gear, for whichever you want to find the pitch velocity. All right, if the case of pinion, you will use the RPM of pinion and diameter of pinion. So this is the formula by which we can calculate the pitch velocity, and if it is between 5 to 10, then the formula for calculating the velocity factor will be 6/6 plus v. Then if the velocity pitch line velocity is between 10 to 20, then CV formula will be 15/15 plus v. In the same manner, if the velocity is greater than 20 meter per second, then the velocity factor will be 0.75 divided by 0.75 plus root v. And if in the question the gear is made of non-metal, means your gear is non-metallic, in that case the value will be different. In that case, you will take this expression for finding the value of CV, velocity factor. After this, students, the next thing which will have to be calculated will be the dynamic tooth load. In spur gear design also we have calculated this. In the same manner, in the case of helical gear designing, we will use it, but that formula will be somewhat different. In the formula, we will have to add the helix angle. We will have to add this expression of helix angle. So this is the formula by which we will be calculating the dynamic tooth load. We all know, for calculating dynamic tooth load, you will have to add the incremental load with the tangential load. All right, so this increment load expression, you should know, it is different from that of a spur gear, because in here you have the extra cos alpha written here. Now the third step will be in the same manner as we have calculated in the spur gear design. Here also we will calculate the static tooth load, which is also known as endurance strength of the tooth. And how we will calculate it? The formula is sigma E B P M pi m y dash. Here y dash is different from the formula of spur gear. Y dash is basically calculated by using the equivalent number of teeth, not the actual number of teeth. And the formula, I have already explained you how to use the equivalent number of teeth formula. TE equivalent number of teeth is equal to T upon cos Q whole 1. Alright. Then after the fourth step will be, we will calculate the maximum or limiting wear load for helical gears. So what is the wear tooth load? It is calculated by this formula. As in the same manner in the spur gear design, here also we are calculating the wear tooth load, and this is the formula. Then after, in this formula we have a factor K. So K will be calculated by this equation, where in this equation phi n is the normal pressure angle. Moving further, students, now since we have understood the whole of the design process, first of all this is the Lewis equation, then after this is the velocity factor formula, then dynamic tooth load, static tooth load, then a wear tooth load. These all three we have calculated. Then after, now let's solve a question, design a helical gear. So what is the question saying to us? First of all, let's read out. A pair of helical gears are used to transmit 15 kilowatt. So 15 kilowatt is basically the power that is to transmitted. The teeth are 20-degree stub. The type of the teeth is given to you. And the helix angle is 45 degrees. So 45 degrees is the helix angle. The pinion runs at 1000 RPM. So here the value of RPM of pinion means it is NP. It is basically what? It is the RPM means it is the NP. We write it by NP. Then after, also the pinion, they are talking about the pinion. Also the pitch diameter of pinion is 80 mm. 80 mm is what? 80 mm is the pitch diameter. So for pinion they have also given the value of diameter. So basically this is what? This is your DP. This is your DP. DP. Alright. This is your DP. Now the gear has 320 mm pitch diameter. For the gear they have provided the information of the pitch diameter. So DG also you have been given here. This is basically your DG, diameter of gear. If the gears are made of cast steel, the material is cast steel having allowable static strength of 100 megapascals. So this is allowable static strength of both the gears. So sigma naught allowable, we will be using 100 megapascal. Now we have to determine a suitable module and face width for static gear strength. We have to calculate the module as well as the face width. Module we all know is basically what? It is a small m. It is denoted by small m. And face width is basically what? Face width is your b, small b. So both we will calculate, and we have been provided with one more data, and that is the endurance stress. That is 618 megapascal. So all the given values which are given in the question, first of all we have listed every value. We will use subscript m for module and b for face width. Moving further, first of all what we will do, students, first of all, since both the gear and the pinion, in the question it is given that both are made of the same material. Material is your cast steel. Therefore if both pinion and gear are made of same material, always pinion is considered as weaker, and whichever is considered weaker, the design is done on the basis of that. So pinion designing will be done on the basis of pinion. All values we will take of the pinion. First of all, the torque that is transmitted we can calculate, since we have been given the value of power. So the power transmitted is 15 into 10 to the power 3. So the torque we can calculate. We all know that power is equal to 2 pi nt by 60. We all know that power P is equal to 2 pi Nt divided by 60. All right, so by this formula we can calculate the value of torque transmitted, because power is given to us, so torque we can calculate. So torque is calculated, it is equal to 14.32 Newton meter. Now the tangential load, since torque we have obtained, now the tangential load that will be acting on the pinion will be equal to, we all know that torque T is equal to tangential load means force Wt divided by Wt into dP, force Wt into dP means force into distance from the rotation gives you the value of torque. So Wt is the tangential load that is acting. Wt is basically what? Wt is the tangential load that is acting. All right, and the distance is how much? Distance is d by 2. Distance is d by 2. dP by 2, in fact, dP divided by 2. So from this we can calculate, this is your Wt, tangential load acting on the gear is your Wt. All right, and if we will multiply with the distance dP by 2, we will get the value of torque acting. So by that we can also calculate the tangential load. Wt is equal to T upon dP by 2. Finally the tangential load is equal to 358 Newton. Now tangential load we have calculated. The next thing that we have to calculate is the number of teeth on the pinion. Since module is not given to us, but diameter of the pinion is given to us, and we all know that module is equal to diameter, m is equal to d by t, diameter of the pinion to the number of teeth on the pinion. Through that we can write that the number of teeth on a pinion is equal to diameter of the pinion divided by module. So 80 divided by m becomes the value of Tp. Now here this is a question of helical gears. In helical gears we always have to calculate the equivalent number of teeth, and the formula that is used is Te is equal to Tp upon cos cube alpha. Te is equal to Tp upon cos cube alpha. Tp is 80 by m, already calculated in the previous step, and cos cube alpha means alpha is 45 degree given in the question. Putting the value we will get an expression for equivalent number of teeth, and it is 226.4 divided by m. Now do this, always keep in mind that this is a question of helical gear, therefore we will have to calculate the equivalent number of teeth. If you go directly by using the number of teeth, actual number of teeth value, then you will get the wrong answer, because this is not a question of spur gear design, this is a question of helical gear design. Moving further, students, tooth form factor. Now we will calculate. Yp dash is the tooth form factor, and the formula, since in the question the type of teeth of the gear is 20 degree stub teeth, and if you will see in the machine design data book, in the table for calculating the tooth form factor, you will see that for 20 degree stub teeth the value of tooth form factor is given by this expression. Here Te is the equivalent number of teeth. Expression for equivalent number of teeth we have already calculated in the previous step. Finally you will get this expression for tooth form factor. All right, now one more thing we have to calculate, that is the velocity factor, and velocity factor can only be calculated if we have the value of pitch velocity or peripheral velocity. Peripheral velocity can be calculated by the formula pi d n by 60. For pinion diameter is 0.08 and the RPM value is 10,000. Putting these values you will get the velocity, pitch peripheral velocity for pinion. Now velocity factor is 0.104. all right, and since it why we have used this formula, again in the data book you will see a chart showing the value of velocity factor, and it differs as per the peripheral velocity. If the peripheral velocity is greater than 20 meter per second, then in that case this formula is used, 0.75 upon 0.75 plus root v. So this is the velocity factor. Now since maximum face width, the relation between face width and module, if it is not given in the question, then generally the relation between the phase width and module is B is equal to 12.5 m. So if it is not given in the question, you can take by yourself. Phase width is always 12.5 into module. Generally this is the value. So you can by yourself take this value, students. Moving now further, now since we have calculated the velocity factor, we have calculated the phase width in terms of module. Module is already there. Even the tooth form factor we have calculated in terms of module. This allowable permissible stress value is given to you in the question 100. So everything is given to you in terms of module. So only unknown in this expression will be your m. The tooth load is already given as the 358 we have calculated in the first step, tangential tooth load. Putting that value we can calculate, since it is again a cubic equation, so it can be solved by hit and trial method. You put the values of m and see whether the guessed value of m used here gives you the value of LHS equal to RHS or not. This method is known as hit and trial method. And through this you will find that the module value is 2.5 mm. 2.3 if it comes, then it is generally round off. Generally the module is of standard module is of 2.5, so near to 2.3 is 2.5, so we are taking the module value 2.5, and the relation between phase width and module was what, 12.5 into m. So from this relation we have calculated the value of phase width. Now let's check whether the value we have calculated are correct or not, whether this module and phase width value are correct or not. So how we will check? We will first of all find the velocity ratio, students. Velocity ratio is the ratio of diameter of gear to the pinion. You will get the value equal to 4 because diameter of both the gear as well as pinion is given to you. Moving further, after this we will calculate the ratio factor. Ratio factor is important because we will use this ratio factor further for calculating the static tooth load. So ratio factor is calculated by this formula, 2 into VR upon VR plus 1. For external gearing this formula is used. So in this formula velocity ratio value you will find that ratio factor is 1.6. Again one more formula is there in I have told you in the first slide of this discussion, that 10 phi n means pressure angle normal in the normal direction is equal to 10 phi into cos alpha. Phi is the pressure angle given in the question, so we have to calculate phi n. Phi is given to us 20 degree, alpha is 45 degree. So using this, by this relation you can calculate the value of phi n. Phi n is equal to 14.4 degree. All right, now students, since both the gear as well as pinion both are of same material, means the modulus of elasticity value of both the material will also be same. So for both the material is cast steel, so the value which we will take will be 200 kilonewton per mm square. This is the value given in the question also, 200, or by the data book you can calculate this value of what, of this particular EP value, EP. All right, modulus of elasticity. So if it is not given in the question, students, you can use it by yourself from the machine data book. You can calculate the value of Young's modulus. Then after using this Young's modulus in the formula of load stress factor, you can calculate the load stress factor. In the load stress factor you need EP, EG, which is given, which we will see from which we will calculate from data book. All right, and apart from that, this endurance stress value is also given in the question. It is 618. Putting all these value you will get the load stress factor value. So ratio factor and load stress factor both we have calculated. Now through this we will calculate the value of maximum or limiting load for wear. Formula is limiting or maximum load for wear is equal to dP/BQK upon cos square alpha. K is the load stress factor, already calculated in the previous step. Q is the ratio factor. All right, putting these value, dP and B are already calculated. Putting all the values you will get the value of limiting or maximum load for wear is equal to 5554 Newton. Now since this value which you have calculated of maximum load, since this value is more than the tangential load of the tooth, since this value, student, is more than the tangential value, load of value of the tooth, therefore the design is considered as safe. Design is considered as safe. All right, you will compare this value which you have calculated with the value we have calculated as the tangential load. So if this value of wear load, if it is greater than the tangential load, then our design is safe. So in this way we have checked also our design. We have calculated the parameters and then after we have checked our design also. All right, so this was whole of the numerical which I have discussed with you, student. Now we will discuss some of the multiple choice question in order to understand whether we have understood whole of the video lecture or not. So starting with the first multiple choice question, student. The first question is saying to you that if T is the actual number of teeth on a helical gear and phi is the helix angle for the teeth, then the formative number of teeth is written as, so the formative number of teeth formula, if we have the helix angle and the actual number of teeth, is what? From the four options A, T, sec, cube, phi. T sec cube phi, the formula which I have told to you, student, is what? T upon cos cube helix angle. No, so it can T upon cos cube. We all know that cos alpha, cos cube alpha can be written as sec cube alpha. 1 upon cos cube alpha can be written as sec cube alpha. So the formula I have told to you, TE, equivalent number of teeth, is equal to T upon cos cube alpha. It can be written as T sec cube alpha. So first is the option A is the correct option. Coming into the next multiple choice question. In helical gears, the distance between similar faces of adjacent teeth along a helix on the pitch cylinders normal to the teeth is called. So we all know that if you calculate the distance between similar faces of adjacent teeth along a helix on the pitch cylinder normal to the teeth, then you will not get circular pitch, you will get normal pitch. So option A is the correct option of MCQ number 2. Coming into the next multiple choice question. In helical gears, the right hand helix of one gear will mesh with, we all know that if helical gears are meshed with each other, then they should have the opposite sides of the helix. Means if one is the right hand, then the other will be of left hand. So in both the options which are given, B is the correct one. Left hand helix will be on the other gear if one of the gear is having the right hand helix. All right, moving further, coming into multiple choice question number 4. The helix angle for single helical gears range from, so we all know that for single helical gears the helix angle range from 15 to 20 degree. So in the options, B is giving you this value 15 to 20 degrees. So B is the correct answer. Coming into the fifth multiple choice question. The helix angle for double helical gears may be made up to, so the helix angle for double helical gears are constrained. They can be made up to a particular degree angle. What is that angle? This 45 degree helix angle for double helical gears, that is your herringbone gear, can be 45 degree maximum. All right, moving further, coming into the next multiple choice questions, MCQ number 6. The product of a diametrical pitch and circular pitch is equal to, so we all know that if you will multiply the diametrical pitch PD with PC, what you will get? You will get C. PD is what? Diametrical pitch D by T. D divided by T. All right. d by t, and circular PC is equal to pi m, pi d by t. PC is equal to pi d by t. Diametrical pitch is equal to t by d. Here you can clear it, students. Our question which we were discussing is the MCQ number 6. I told you that diametrical pitch, if you multiply the diametrical pitch with the circular pitch, so diametrical pitch is equal to t by d, and circular pitch is equal to pi d by t, pi d by t. So if you multiply these both, this dd will cancel out, this dd will cancel out, t will cancel out. The only thing which will be left is pi. So option C will give you the correct option. Option C is the correct option. Coming into the multiple choice question number 7. The backlash for spur gears depend on, so the backlash value, students, for spur gear is generally dependent on both the module as well as pitch line velocity. So D is giving you the option both A and B. So D is the correct option. D is your correct option. Coming into the MCQ number 8, students, the contact ratio for gear is, we all know that contact ratio for a gear is always greater than 1. This you should keep in mind. Always the contact ratio is greater than 1. Coming into the 9th multiple choice question, if the center distance of mating gears having involute teeth is increased, then the pressure angle, see, if the center distance you increase, then in that case the pressure angle will also increase, because both are proportional to each other. Center distance between the gear, if that is increased, then you will then the pressure angle will also be increased. Coming into the 10th multiple choice question, the form factor of a spur gear tooth depends on, now the form factor we all know it depends on both the number of teeth as well as the system of teeth. So form factor basically depends on both the number of teeth as well as the system of teeth. So D is the correct option. We have discussed all the multiple choice questions relevant with today's discussion, students. For your self study, you can use the reference books which are highlighted in this slide. For today, it's enough, students. We will again meet in the next video lecture. Thank you, students. Thank you and have a nice day.